The Ouroboros IP Protocol, Buyback-and-Burn as the deflationary coordination engine for tokenized RWAs. Introduction. The emergence of tokenized real-world assets, RWAs, has introduced powerful new tools for bridging traditional economic value into decentralized financial systems. From music catalogs and film rights to physical infrastructure and intellectual property, the idea of fractionalizing income-generating assets and placing them on-chain has become one of the most compelling frontiers in Web3 development. But this frontier faces a fundamental constraint: regulatory clarity. The vast majority of RWA tokenization efforts quickly run into legal ambiguity around securities laws, particularly when income streams are involved. Projects that attempt to offer dividends, shared profits, or yield-like incentives often trigger the Howey test, a legal standard used in the United States and elsewhere to classify an asset as a security. This classification subjects projects to stringent oversight, limits who can invest, and undermines the permissionless ethos of crypto. At the same time, many tokenized assets suffer from a different weakness. They lack meaningful long-term coordination mechanisms. Without deflationary logic, value recapture, or community-aligned signaling systems, the tokens exist as speculative vehicles rather than ownership stakes in maturing, productive assets. The Ouroboros IP protocol is designed to solve both of these problems, elegantly and simultaneously. It introduces a symbolic, non-discretionary buyback-and-burn mechanism as the core logic for deflationary coordination. Instead of distributing income to token holders, which invites regulatory scrutiny, the protocol routes a portion of revenue into an autonomous smart contract that buys tokens on the open market and burns them. This action reduces supply, increases scarcity, and rewards all remaining holders proportionally, without making any explicit financial promises. What emerges is a powerful loop, one that converts income streams into long-term value consolidation through publicly verifiable, non-personalized mechanisms. It does so without offering dividends, issuing rewards, or creating expectation of profit. It simply burns, and that burn becomes the signal. This exposition introduces the protocol, its mechanics, its philosophical basis in preemptive infrastructure theory, and its practical role in defining a new standard for how real-world assets reach maturity on-chain, legally, symbolically, and sustainably. Section 2, Core Concept. What is the Ouroboros IP Protocol? At its core, the Ouroboros IP protocol is a symbolic coordination loop that allows income-generating assets to be tokenized without distributing those income streams to token holders. Instead of offering dividends or revenue shares, both of which typically trigger securities classification, the protocol employs a buyback-and-burn mechanism. This mechanism takes a portion of the revenue generated by the underlying asset, e.g. licensing fees, royalties, streaming revenue, and uses it to purchase tokens on the open market, which are then permanently removed from circulation via a burn contract. This reduces the total supply of tokens. As the token supply declines and demand remains constant or increases due to the asset's success, the value of the remaining tokens is implicitly supported by the shrinking denominator, without any party having to promise or guarantee price appreciation. This mechanism is automated via smart contract logic, symbolic, not contractual, deflationary, not inflationary, voluntary in interpretation, not financial in obligation. Buyback and burn does not equate to dividend. It is critical to emphasize that this mechanism does not offer token holders a claim on revenue. There is no distribution, no fixed yield, no right to income. The project does not announce rewards or promise payouts. Instead, the burn is framed as a cultural or protocol-level ritual, a symbolic act performed by the foundation or entity that receives revenue from the underlying IP or asset. The entity never holds tokens and does not benefit financially from the burn. Its sole function is to direct a fixed or variable portion of income into a public smart contract that executes the buyback and burn in a transparent, rule-based way. Deflationary signaling as coordination logic. This symbolic burn becomes a form of public coordination. The act of burning tokens signals that the asset is producing income and that the project is committed to long-term value alignment. Importantly, it offers a non-extractive method for redistributing value to all token holders without centralizing control or violating legal boundaries. In this way, The Ouroboros IP Protocol creates a sustainable economic engine for on-chain RWAs, one that rewards maturity and income generation, not just hype or speculative interest. It provides a shared frame of interpretation around token scarcity, long-term alignment, cultural signaling, project credibility, and all of this is done without promising a single cent to token holders. Section 3, Preemptive Infrastructure Theory and Asset Maturity. From potential to performance, when a tokenized RWA bears fruit. To understand how the Ouroboros IP protocol fits into a broader model of asset evaluation and token lifecycle, we turn to Preemptive Infrastructure Theory, PIT, a guiding concept that frames infrastructure not just as a reactive solution, but as an anticipatory act that unlocks latent value over time. According to PIT, every tokenized real-world asset begins life as a form of preemptive infrastructure. It exists not because it is already profitable, but because it could be, and because tokenization creates new coordination possibilities to help it get there. Tokenization is, in this sense, soil, a substrate from which future fruit may grow. The fruit test, a maturity model for tokenized RWAs. This leads to what we call the fruit test, a simple yet powerful heuristic for distinguishing between speculative assets and maturing ones. This chart outlines the 4 stages of maturity for a tokenized real-world asset, RWA, using a plant growth metaphor. 1. Seed. The asset is still just an idea. It doesn't generate any income yet. It has potential, but nothing tangible. 2. Sprout. A token has been created and issued, but the asset still isn't generating income. This stage is speculative. 3. Bloom. The asset starts producing income. It's showing promise and may soon be considered viable. 4. Fruit. A portion of the income is now being routed to a public buyback-and-burn contract. This marks full maturity. The asset is both earning and participating in a deflationary loop. Under this model, speculative assets are those without an income stream. They may eventually bear fruit, but currently they are unripe. Mature assets are those that have achieved product-market fit, generate ongoing income, and route part of that income into a buyback-and-burn loop. Only when income is both real and symbolically committed to the burn mechanism does the asset graduate from potential to productive. This distinction is critical, not just for regulatory clarity, but for investor discipline and community credibility. It prevents dilution of quality by separating hype tokens from income-backed coordination assets. The buyback loop as proof of maturity. The beauty of the Ouroboros protocol is that the loop itself becomes proof of maturity. Anyone can verify the income stream on-chain. Anyone can inspect the buyback logic. Anyone can track deflationary supply metrics. No central party needs to declare that a project is succeeding. The loop proves it. In this way, the protocol creates a shared symbolic language across decentralized projects, allowing the market to sort, rank, and reward assets based on maturity, not just narrative. This content is brought to you by Bobby Gigs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. Section 4, Protocol Architecture. How the Ouroboros IP protocol works in practice. To function effectively, the Ouroboros IP protocol separates responsibilities across distinct entities, each with a narrow, well-defined role. This separation is what allows the system to maintain regulatory distance, technical clarity, and market trust. Key roles and components. One foundation IP holding entity holds ownership of the underlying asset, e.g., music catalog, film rights, patent. Responsible for licensing, commercialization, and receiving real-world revenue. Does not hold or issue tokens. Routes a portion of income into a buyback-and-burn contract per its charter. 2. Smart contract token issuer, a non-human contract that mints the token supply. May be deployed by a third-party DAO, legacy rights holder, or anonymous developer. The contract governs total supply, distribution mechanics, and metadata. 3. Buyback-and-burn contract, public, autonomous contract that receives stablecoins or other income proxies. Buys tokens from the open market via a DEX router, e.g. Uniswap. Sends purchase tokens to a burn address. Cannot be paused or redirected once initialized. 4. Token holders, community. Do not receive income directly. Benefit only via increased token scarcity. may participate in ecosystem development, promotion, or decentralized governance, off-chain or DAO-driven. 5. Founder, spokesperson, optional role, separate from the foundation, may contribute vision, community engagement, or future roadmap ideas, cannot receive income or control token supply directly, symbolic figurehead, not a legal or economic beneficiary. Flow of value chart. 1. The asset earns income. This could be from licensing, royalties, or any other real-world revenue source tied to the asset, like music streaming or patent usage. 2. That income goes to the foundation. The foundation is the legal entity that owns the asset. It receives the income either in fiat or crypto. 3. A portion of that income is routed to a smart contract. The foundation sends part of the income based on a predefined rule or schedule to an autonomous on-chain contract designed for buybacks. 4. The smart contract uses the funds to buy tokens on the open market. It automatically purchases the project's tokens from decentralized exchanges like Uniswap. 5. The tokens are permanently destroyed, burned. After buying the tokens, the contract sends them to a burn address, reducing the total supply. This creates a feedback loop. The more income the asset earns, the more tokens get removed from circulation, increasing scarcity and signaling maturity. The foundation performs one action only. It routes a fixed or rule-based portion of income to the public contract. The contract performs one action only, buy and burn. This strict separation preserves plausible deniability, regulatory clarity, and system modularity. Fixed versus dynamic burn logic. 2 configurations are viable. Fixed burn rate. Example, 10% of monthly net income is routed to the burn contract. Simple, transparent, and hard to contest legally. Conditional burn trigger. Example, only burn if income exceeds operating costs. Adds flexibility, but must be rules-based, not discretionary. In both models, the key is that the burn logic is predefined, auditable, and non-negotiable once deployed. Ensuring foundation neutrality. To avoid securities classification, the foundation must never hold tokens. It cannot benefit financially from token price appreciation. It must not make public claims of supporting token value. Its only mandate is to uphold its charter, route income, maintain asset, and renew licenses. If followed, this architecture ensures the foundation is a service provider, not an issuer or beneficiary. Section 5. Regulatory framing and vocabulary enforcement. Staying compliant by design and by language. At the heart of the Ouroboros IP Protocol is a strategic avoidance of regulatory pitfalls, not through obfuscation or evasion, but through architectural and linguistic discipline. The protocol is built from the ground up to not qualify as a securities offering. This is achieved through both structure, what the protocol does, and framing, what the protocol says it does. Language and logic must remain tightly coordinated. Avoiding the Howey trap. The Howey test, used by U.S. regulators to classify securities, evaluates 4 key criteria. 1. Investment of money. 2. In a common enterprise. 3. With an expectation of profit. 4. Derived from the efforts of others. The Ouroboros protocol systematically disarms each point. No investment contract is offered. Tokens may be sold, but with no attached promises. No shared enterprise profit claim exists. Token holders do not receive distributions. No expectation of profit is made. No party guarantees appreciation or yield. No managerial efforts drive returns. The foundation is operational, not promotional. The smart contract executes autonomously. This turns the burn into a symbolic ritual, not a contractual payout. It's publicly observable, but not privately entitled. Symbolic framing of the burn. To maintain this non-financial interpretation, the act of buyback-and-burn must be culturally encoded, not financially promised. Acceptable language includes: the foundation may elect to reduce supply over time. Revenue may be routed to a public burn contract. All token dynamics are non-binding and performed by autonomous software. No holder is entitled to any portion of income or proceeds. Unacceptable language includes: we will reward token holders with revenue. The token represents a share of future profits. Expect value to rise as income increases. Such language, even if unintentional, risks inviting regulatory scrutiny, even if the architecture itself is compliant. Vocabulary enforcement, critical for compliance. A standardized vocabulary must be adopted across white papers, community updates, interviews, and interfaces. The chart provides a guide on what to say and what not to say when describing the project in order to avoid triggering securities regulations. It's about using language carefully to stay legally safe. It has two columns. The left column lists approved terms that are neutral, symbolic, or technical. The right column lists risky terms that sound like investment promises or financial rewards. Examples: say burn, not dividend, because dividend implies profit sharing. Say deflationary loop, not yield mechanism, to avoid sounding like you're offering interest or returns. Say symbolic gesture, not financial return, to keep the burn ritual aligned with cultural, not contractual expectations. Say routing funds, not profit sharing, so it doesn't sound like investors are getting paid. Say autonomous contract, not managed distribution, to emphasize it's a passive, rule-based process, not an active payout system. Bottom line, use careful language to make it clear that the protocol is about signaling maturity, not about promising profits. This helps keep the project compliant, decentralized, and regulator-proof. Section 6, Practical Application and Standardization, a framework for builders, evaluators, and the next wave of on-chain asset projects. The power of the Ouroboros IP protocol lies not only in its regulatory resilience and philosophical elegance, but in its practical utility. It offers a plug-and-play architecture for builders, artists, studios, legacy IP holders, and even traditional institutions looking to tokenize income-generating assets without inheriting the legal liabilities of dividend-bearing tokens. Let's examine how this protocol can be applied, evaluated, and standardized across the RWA tokenization landscape. Use cases: where the protocol fits, music catalogs, tokenize ownership in song rights or album catalogs, income from streaming and licensing routes to the burn contract, film and franchise IP. A media studio tokenizes a popular animated series. Merchandising and syndication income fuels token buybacks. Gaming assets. In-game IP or virtual land licenses generate income through player activity or NFT royalties. A fixed percent flows into the burn protocol. Patents and licenses. Patent holders tokenize a portfolio of real-world licenses. Income from B2B agreements feeds a buyback loop. Publishing rights. A book series, educational curriculum, or academic archive is tokenized. Revenue from derivative licensing supports token deflation. In each of these cases, the protocol allows creators to raise capital or build communities around an asset without triggering yield-based regulation. Early monetization does not equate to late-stage promise. The protocol also encourages a powerful mindset shift. Projects must earn maturity, not promise it. Token issuance can happen at any stage, seed, sprout, but only mature, fruitful assets gain long-term legitimacy under this system. This provides a sorting mechanism for participants. Investors can evaluate the token's maturity based on burn activity and income visibility. Builders are incentivized to move beyond speculation and toward product-market fit. Analysts can model deflation curves, burn rates, and income resiliency as metrics of fundamental value. It's a discipline mechanism, disguised as a symbolic loop, toward a standard model by adopting a consistent pattern of role separation, no central issuer beneficiary, smart contract issuance, publicly auditable burn logic, income-based deflation. The Ouroboros IP protocol offers a repeatable standard for decentralized capital formation tied to real-world assets. This standard is especially vital as RWA tokenization enters its exponential growth phase. The earlier this protocol is understood and adopted, the faster the ecosystem will converge on legitimacy without compromise. Section 7, Conclusion. Closing the loop: a philosophy, a mechanism, a standard. The Ouroboros IP protocol is more than a technical design. It is a philosophical stance, one that says income, ownership, scarcity, and symbolic coordination can coexist without crossing legal lines or centralizing power. By turning revenue into ritual and ownership into a game of scarcity, this protocol does what legacy systems cannot. It aligns decentralized participation with real-world economic value, without making anyone a creditor, issuer, or underwriter. It allows creators to tap into DeFi capital formation. It gives investors a signal of maturity, not a promise of return. It lets IP, whether a hit song or a breakthrough patent, become the soil for regenerative, decentralized financial culture. The buyback-and-burn is not just a trick to avoid regulation. It's a symbolic engine, compliance-aware design pattern, and a signal of success. It is the snake eating its own tail, but this time, the tail is made of fire. The Ouroboros IP Protocol, Buyback-and-Burn as the deflationary coordination engine for tokenized RWAs, stands as both blueprint and beacon, a self-reinforcing system that rewards growth, respects decentralization, and stays one step ahead of the old world.